This is Michael McKeon, a.k.a. Morris Fletcher, a.k.a. Chuck McGill. You know who I am. But it's time for Inside the Gilliverse with Eric Broadbent.
You're watching Inside the Gilliverse, talking all things Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul. Brought to you by the Royal Baubles Collection at bobbleheads.com. For all your favorite characters from the Gilliverse, shop the Royal Baubles Collection at bobbleheads.com. Also brought to you by Rode Microphones, the official microphone supplier of Inside the Gilliverse. See their entire lineup today at rode.com. Now please welcome your host, Eric Broadbent.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Season 2, Episode 4 of Inside the Gilliverse, where we talk all things Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul. My name is Eric Broadbent, and it comes with great pleasure to welcome tonight's guest. You know him as Walter Flynn White, Walt Jr. from the hit TV show, the juggernaut of television, Breaking Bad, the incredibly talented Mr. RJ Mitte. RJ, welcome to the Gilliverse up here in Canada. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. And we had some technical issues. RJ and I were talking off the air. It's so funny how computers and everything can work like a clockwork all day long until you either have an interview or you got to do something and then it fails, right?
Oh, every time. Literally 2 minutes before we're supposed to meet up, right? We scheduled, do a little pre-rehearsal, all this, have a conversation, make sure that the internet's aligned, and all I hear is do. And I'm like, what was that? I was like in the other room, and I walk back in, and my computer's like hard reboot, and I'm just like, no,
not now.
Come on now.
It
my
is,
life.
I know, and I told you the same thing as well too. Like I do test to make sure I get good bandwidth, and here's the weird thing too. You know, you and I were just talking just seconds before going live. We were talking. You said, you know what the problem is with bandwidth during the day, and that it's kids with their home learning. But now it's like it's 9 o'clock in the evening here, Eastern Standard Time. There's no kids in school, so where's my bandwidth going?
A lot of people don't know is the school district actually buys up the bandwidth, pre-buys it. So they get first access to bandwidth. So even though they're not in school sessions, a lot of the bandwidth isn't going to the general consumer. It's going to privatized markets. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. But it's not like illegal or anything. It's just they want to prioritize education getting the bandwidth.
I get that, and I think that's smart. No, that's actually smart, and I would certainly sacrifice a lot of my bandwidth when it comes to education. So that makes sense. Yeah, they're buying a reserve. You know, it's like buying a whole big, huge tank of gas and you only need 5 gallons of it, but you got that for reserve for the rainy day. So I get it. Yeah. Well, we got a bunch of good questions coming in. I want to give a big thank you to our moderators, Karina and Eamon, or our moderator teams, and the rest of our mods here, Jen and Renata. We thank you very much for helping us in the live chat. So we're going to start with a question that's been sent to me by Karina. This is from Bob Rich. Bob says, who are your favorite actors and what do you admire most about their acting technique and methods? That's a tough question.
I wonder if I wonder if that's should I just stick to this one? But I got many actors that I admire and I watch. You know, growing up, Brad Pitt and Jim Carrey and Denzel Washington and that whole genre of movie stars is something that I really looked at and admired and growing up with. So those were my kind of little groups. But when it came to like working with, I think I've been very lucky to work with some amazing people in our industry and movie stars and television stars that are just next level people. And Brian and Anna Gunn were 2 of those people that I really learned a lot from growing up on Breaking Bad. And, you know, I was very lucky that my whole career I've been around just the excellence of the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful.
You kind of had a bit of a surrogate family there too, didn't you, on Breaking Bad, right? Kind of a secondary mom. I know your mom's a great lady, but a secondary mom and dad. And they were great. They're great.
No, I couldn't imagine who I would be or what I would be doing without Breaking Bad being being the catalyst for all of it, but let alone the family dynamic we had in the show. The birthday parties and close family ties. And, I spent 6 months of my life for 7 years in New Mexico, and really actually staying in New Mexico during those 7-year periods. So it was home.
That's fantastic. No, it's a good share, and that's one of the things too. Breaking Bad is just one large piece of the puzzle in the Gilliverse, but everyone talks about how much of a family it is. It truly is, from the top to the bottom and everywhere in between. So everyone is blessed to have been a part of that, including yourself as well. And just before I go into the next question, my son Eric Jr. is here as well too, and he got a new set of headphones today. He's got some Bear Dynamics, which he loves. He's commenting on yours. He says, "Nice headphones, RJ. What do you got? What are you wearing on your ears?"
I think they're HyperX, actually.
Okay.
I really like these guys. I've done the Turtle Islands, and my sister just got those kitty cat ones. But actually, this is my second pair of HyperX.
Right on.
And I really like it. Great function, and comes with adapters for computers and all that. And
nice. Well, that's fantastic. We froze up just a little bit.
Doesn't hurt my ears.
Yeah, that's good.
Long time.
Yeah, good. Less ear fatigue. A question from Eamon, one of our moderators here, our moderator heads.
Yeah.
He says, "Are you still in touch with some of the cast?"
I am. I'm in touch with them. I mean, as much as anyone's in touch with family to a degree, we hear from each other every so often, and it's a crazy time in our world right now. So everyone's very busy, and we're all still working. So kind of work takes priority, and when we see each other and talk to each other, it's really like no time had passed. So it could be a year, it could be a week, it could be a day, and it's still the same conversation and the same energy. But we're all we have a good par and good camaraderie. So
That's good. And we have a super chat question coming in from Ragava. Ragava runs a really cool YouTube channel as well too. And so he one of the questions was like working with Brian and Anna. So we've already discussed that. But a second part to his question is, what was it like on the set? And do you have any storyline that is your favorite? And actually, he's saying in Better Call Saul. So that was a question I was going to ask as well. Do you watch Better Call Saul? So to answer his, what's one of your favorite storylines in Better Call Saul?
I think I look at it as a whole story. I don't really see it as storylines, as it's just integral networks coming together for this story. And I think for me, the biggest thing is to watch Bob Odenkirk grow this power. And from Breaking Bad, even El Camino has the same story arc almost, where you have this very simple dynamic of an individual who's thrown into a very extraordinary predicament that he has to overcome and evolve with. And there's two choices: to evolve or decay. And it kind of happens in both scenarios to these characters. And for me, I enjoy. I was a big fan of Bob.
Yeah, he's
growing
great.
up, and he's a character in a powerhouse. And watching Better Call Saul, watching Saul Goodman be created is something that's I think very unique to any show, because you don't really see the manifestation of a alter identity, this individual that really is someone else, but you know him as this artificial generated person.
Right. Yeah, you're seeing the reverse. I mean, you got to work with him in his full color, animated self. And now we're getting to see that mild-mannered guy grow and fall and stumble to become, what you worked with. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
And that to me is something that when television creates these cinematic entities, that's something that I hope we can never lose in television and film is that that ability to create these types of well-rounded whole characters.
Exactly. Here's a question from the Vivid Kiwi, another great YouTube channel with all kinds of great theories. What if Walt was honest with Walter Jr. around the same time Skyler found out? So yeah, imagine that, right? If your on-screen dad was like, okay, here's what I'm doing, And I know you even played with ideas of, being the drug kingpin.
Yeah. I think it would be kind of like Ozarks.
Okay.
So you remember the Ozarks, no one really knew, but they knew something bad was happening. They knew that they had to kind of like protect themselves. And then they slowly eased into this drug world. And now they're like all kind of cold-hearted, like people losing that soul. So I think if we were going to play it like that, it would kind of fall along the same lines of like it's like trying something that you don't really like, but if you taste it a little bit longer, you're going to build that taste for it, and you're going to want more of it. And that's kind of what happens to these characters. Really, is they get a little taste, and then they're like, oh, I want all of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the vibe.
Something I think I'm theorizing right now myself too, thinking about this, but if that was to happen, I could see you coming between Gus and Dad, Gus and Walt Sr., because I think Gus would take a liking to you as kind of a young protege, and then Dad's going to get...
Well, Gus would really take a liking, but to use Walt Jr. against Walt Sr., that would be the leverage.
Yes.
That's really what it'd be. It wouldn't be a liking, it would be a leverage.
Yeah. It's kind of like, do you watch Karate Kid?
Yeah.
Or Cobra Kai, I should say, Cobra Kai.
And Cobra Kai, yeah.
So you know how they're doing the leverage, like that. It's kind of similar process, except they're not doing, they're not manufacturing meth.
Yeah.
Here's the part before I jump to the next question here as well too. We have a section on our channel here where our YouTube members get a chance to ask audio questions. So I've got two of them for you today, and they're both actually, one is from Karina, our head moderator with Eamon, and the second one's going to be coming from Lori. So I'm going to play Karina's for you first and see if we can hear this. Here it goes from Karina.
Hi RJ, my name is Karina, and my question is, can you tell me more about this psychological thriller Isaac that you were filming? Next to horror, my favorite type of film is a psychological thriller.
Awesome. Yeah, I love psychological thrillers. They're my favorite. And Isaac's a great story of this kind of like shut-in guy who is a mortician, and you don't really know what's real or what's fantasy with him because he's kind of a little off. We're still in development. We're planning on going back in October. We're supposed to shoot summer of last year, but we all know how filming went last year.
Yeah.
So we're still in development, but we have 80% of the project done. Dove Cameron is one of the other leads, as well as some other amazing men and women that really do a very unique performance. This movie is very... I love avant-garde, and I love to say avant-garde.
Just an excuse to say
very avant-garde.
You've been waiting to say that all day, haven't you?
All day.
Yeah.
I look for a usage, like a sentence use for that specific phrase.
Exactly. I had the exact same thing happen with my better half Nicole the other day. I forget what the thing was. I can never retell a joke, but I was waiting for all day to say it so I could inject this little joke, and it worked. And so us guys with our stupid sense of humor, we just wait to So here's one coming from Lori, and this is a two-part question, and I'm spoiled because I get to hear these beforehand. And the second part of your question it made me giggle. So here you go from Lori.
Hello, RJ. This is Lori. I know that you started supporting your family at a very young age. Was there ever a time that you felt overwhelmed by so much responsibility? And on a much lighter note, I have to ask, when you were modeling for Vivian Woodward and wore that accessory with boobies on the catwalk, did anyone tell you that you had a nice rack? Thanks, RJ.
I love it.
Well, yeah. I was told I had a nice rack, and it was quite the nice rack. But Vivian Westwood is a great group, and I really enjoyed modeling, and I still model, and especially for them. They make great clothing. I don't know if people know who they are. If you don't, check them out. They're very unique, and Vivian herself is really big into climate change and environmental stuff, and as well as I am. So I'm very keen on supporting individuals like that, and it's a good group. And to the first part of that question, I'm not the only one with a situation that starts having the ability to support their family at a young age. Even if you don't have the ability, you kind of have to gain the ability. And there's a lot of stresses in this world. I was very lucky that I grew up with a family that was gave me the mentality is can't is a decision. I'm a firm believer that we choose what we can and can't do. It may not be instant that you can do it, but with time and blood and sweat and tears, you can do it. And so for me, I was kind of in a position where I didn't have a choice, and I wouldn't ever I wouldn't ever change that, and I still don't today. My family is a very big part of my life, and we're very close knit, and we do anything for each other, and that's something that I know why I do what I do for my family, and they do what they do for me.
Yeah, well, very well said. And I mean, and good on you for doing that. I mean, like you said, we can choose to do what we can and can't do. And, I think probably a lot of times for your life, you probably had people telling you, you can't do this and you can't do that. And you've showed them,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really applaud you for that.
Well, when someone says I can't do something, I ask why. And if they don't have a good enough answer, likelihood of me doing it is exponential.
Good. Yeah, because and probably most of the time they're not going to have an answer just because people are jealous and they want to see you fail, like see us fail.
Well, I don't think people don't want to see anyone fail. They just don't have the ability to comprehend growing past that level.
Yeah,
I think that's the big thing is in our society. It's if you don't understand it, you're like, no, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of you're seeing it a lot more, especially when it comes to the market. You can't do that. Wait, what do you mean? And it's like one of those situations where like, no, I can, and I'm going to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it.
Yeah.
You may not always do it well, but you get it done.
That's right. And you're given that fire under your butt to do it because no one wants to be told that they can't.
No.
And they honestly, they never should. And look at some of the greatest people in the world who have, there's great guitarists and great sports athletes and everywhere in between that people have been told by their mentors or their family or friends that no, you can't. And look what they've become. So more power to them. Here's a question from Aya Mendalton. Was there a moment that you were so incredibly in character that you forgot that you were acting? And that could have been Breaking Bad or anything you've done.
I mean, I technically don't act. I know that's a weird thing to say because yes, I am acting to a degree, but for me, what I do when it comes to my performances are kind of like living in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really pretending to be someone else. I am that person. I am that person in that instant, in these clothes, with this dialogue. That is that person. And so what I do is I take the mentality of that person and I just use it. And some of it is to a degree considered method acting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really look at it as method. I just look at it as being there and engaged. As that wording, as those individuals to whatever that goal may accomplish. And then as soon as I take the clothes off and off, I'm home and not that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very well said. And thank you for explaining as well. A question from Josiah Nally, if I'm pronouncing it right, says, hello, RJ. What was your favorite scene to do on Breaking Bad? And I mean, I think I counted today. Was it like 53 episodes you were in or something? It was crazy. The numbers were insane. It was a lot.
It was 50 something. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, I was in every episode, except for one, I think, which was the Fly episode. Actually, I think I was in that one too.
Yeah.
It was small, or maybe, I don't know. I can't remember.
And it's funny too. People always criticize that episode, and I think people when they watch it back the third and fourth and fifth time, they say they skipped that episode. And I'm like, why? That is such a pivotal moment for, Well,
it was a pivotal moment for the show. It saved the series because without the fly episode, we wouldn't have been able to afford to do what we did in other episodes. That was kind of a bottleneck episode for the season there. And that's something that shows you, to a testament to the writers and to the people that were working on the show, is how could we do a lot with a little?
Mm-hmm.
And they did do a lot. And you know, that's either people's favorite episode or they skip it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when it comes to skipping it, you're losing value of what these pieces are and how intricate a fly could be. And I think that's something that is a great testament to writers and filmmakers, to show you that you don't need all the bells and whistles. All you need is a fly.
Exactly right. And I'm going to call on some of our great little video editors that are out there, some of our viewers and friends and fans that watch this. Go snip this section right now and share this, because I see this come up in all the Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul groups all the time. How people, like you say, they're opinionated. They're on one side of the fence or the other. And now we've got a little bit of data from someone that really, really matters, and telling us about why the fly episode was so good. Yeah.
It's the intricate nature of what Vince and the writing team did for the show is really why we still have the legacy today. Mm-hmm. And without it, we couldn't be the show that we are.
Details. He is all in the details. Talk about it.
Devil's in the details.
That's right. That's right. He's coming back, by the way. About 3 more episodes. Vince is coming back.
Oh, is he? Awesome.
Yeah.
I love Vince. He's such a great character.
We got to get him a microphone this time, though. He was pretty quiet last time, so we're going to put a mic. We're going to boom mic. We'll get the sound guys from the team.
I'm going to send them one of these HyperX. There you go.
I think it would look good. Vince with a HyperX. I think I'm sure we could get him a HyperX endorsement. Pretty easy.
Very easy.
Here's a great question from Robin Salazar. Robin says, do you wish that you had a scene with Jesse?
I do wish I had a scene with Jesse. I think I got shited on that. Like I got slighted. I mean, when it comes to, because me and him were the closest really in age, mm-hmm. Of characters in the series. I just never met. And you know, maybe one day me and him will have a scene. But yeah, I wish we could have done that.
You think you guys would have been playing Xbox or PlayStation, or would you have been busting some doors down or something?
Maybe not on the show, but in real life we did. I got to stay with him for a week when I was younger and not allowed to have the house by myself.
Okay. Oh boy, Aaron as a house a chaperone.
Yeah, that was smart, right?
Yeah.
My mother did great there. We went and we saw Juliet and the Licks and played Xbox.
Oh boy. Yeah. I'm just gonna go sleep over at my friend's house, Aaron's mom. I'll be back in a week.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Maybe 6 months. No.
Yeah, that's right. And let's talk about your mom for a second. We're gonna come up with some more questions. And this is something I know, like you've obviously with your mom most of your life. And sometimes I've been called this. So like mom in my life was very, very influential on me. And sometimes people call me a mama's boy. And I'd be like, hey, why don't you come back when you have an insult? A mama's boy to me is not an insult. Do you look at yourself as a mama's boy, and do you take pride in that?
Yeah. I'm a mama's boy. I look at myself more like a family man, because mama's boy can be derogative. But I grew up with my mom. My parents divorced when I was very young, like 2 months old.
That's
so
young.
It's like, oh, we're having a baby. Well, I'm filing. No, that's not how it went down. But it's funny to say that.
Sure.
Yeah, my family was very, very close, and even with my father was kind of mentally ill, bipolar and schizophrenic and all those lovely things, self-medicated, all that stuff. And I was very close to my grandparents on my father's side. And when I was around, I'd say around 10 or 11, my mother was in a car accident.
Oh, yeah.
And was kind of paralyzed for about 7 years.
Whoa.
She could walk,
mm-hmm.
but couldn't lift anything. They put a metal cage into her back. And so to do that, they slice all the muscles up your back and put this steel bar square into your back and fuse it to your spine and all these things. And 5 years of surgery and recovery, and really 2 years of getting that life in order. And about, I don't know, a couple of months before that, my sister was born. So it was us with this newborn, and my mom couldn't even hold her for quite some time. So when it goes to the other conversation we had about my family and the importance of stepping in and helping, it wasn't really always financially. It was just being there and making the little things happen.
Support, physically, emotional,
Yeah. Carrying the bags were key, man. I carried all the bags, just stacked high and did it all, and the bottles and the changings and the whole 9 yards. And so when you go through something like that, you become very close. It could be your mother, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your spouse, for all that. But when you go through that process, you definitely build a different bond and relationship. And very close. My mother was actually sick for the last 3 years with, I don't know, many people have heard this, but breast implant illness.
Never heard of it.
And I recommend to anyone that knows someone with breast implants, or my mother had ovarian cancer young and had a mastectomy and all that, and had implants, but had been having these strokes practically for the last 3 years, and it was getting worse and worse. And actually, because our health system is so screwed in the U.S., I actually drove her to Mexico.
Okay.
And got so much better health care.
That's hard to believe. Yeah. Come to Canada.
Okay, well, where I live, I'm 2 hours away from Monterrey.
Yeah,
so
it makes
I
sense.
live on the border, so I'm easier to drive there than drive north, especially in the pandemic.
That's true. I was only teasing you there, but for sure. Was it more like a saline reaction, or is it more deep than that?
Deeper than that. It was like a whole capsulated situation, and her body was rejecting, but couldn't process it. And there's not really, people, it's not common, but it's not common. And, it took her to doctors all over the country and was taking her some here, and finally got an answer. And they're like, hold up, we don't really know. And this is something that I've heard my whole life, growing up with cerebral palsy and surgeries and situations. And all my family has had cancer at one point or something else. And so I'm fairly well versed in the medical field of watching it or getting it done to me firsthand. And I've heard this a lot. It's we know you have something, but we don't know what.
Okay.
Don't worry. We're going to test on you long enough to either 1, kill you, or 2, we'll find out.
Yeah.
So they said that we believe it's this, and we can schedule for surgery next year. And this was in November, and she was getting sicker and sicker. And eventually I said, you know what? I put a deposit down. I paid for the surgery up front because it was ridiculous here. I went over there, and it was half the price of my copay here. Not even half the price. And they weren't accepting my insurance here. They wanted full price. So I literally was like, no, we're not waiting any longer. We can't afford to wait. You might wake up and be in a wheelchair permanently. So one day booked the trip. We got into a car and we drove to Monterrey, and 3 day surgery, 3 days of rest, came back to the US, and she's been healing, and no symptoms, no strokes, no seizures, nothing. So
wow, that's great.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't realize that this is a very big thing right now. And with COVID, if you have a pre-existing condition, COVID isn't really what's getting people. It's our, I don't like to say this, but I do like to say this: our poor health choices. We all make them, we all have them, but that's really what's catching up to us right now is poor health choices, and we really have to strengthen the human condition, the human mind and the body, and that's something that I'm a big believer in.
Very, very well said. So I'm glad, several things. I'm very glad that your mom is doing better. You got the surgery done for her. And as a takeaway from this, I think both you and I would have no offense being called a mama's boy, would we?
No, don't mind it at all.
Bring it. That's right. Here's a question from Redwood. Have you seen Bryan Cranston's new show, Your Honor? And my fellow viewers here are going to yell at me because I haven't seen it yet. I don't have the service.
I haven't either.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, we're good then.
No,
all right. So
we're good. High five that.
All right. If RJ hasn't seen it, I got a little bit of time bought here.
A little bit.
Yeah. From Vivid Kiwi, how do you think Walt Jr. and Skylar are holding up a few years after the ending of Breaking Bad? Very good question.
I personally believe it's rough, because I don't think a lot of people realize the consequences of what happens when you have a father like a Heisenberg. DEA pretty much puts you into witness protection. They monitor everything. They seize all your assets. They really kind of monitor you for the rest of your life. And especially in the extreme nature of this, and even the family itself could be held as a liability or a mark from other gangs and rival gangs that I took Heisenberg's family away from him, even though he's dead or potentially dead. But I think it's kind of, they're having a hard time. I think I have some theories of or I have some ideas where Walt Jr. could go. I would say personally, like school education and something in the police force, probably like his uncle. And then I think Skylar is destroyed.
Yeah.
And very, very heartbroken. And, Holly, the baby, my baby sister in the show, I think she's kind of in this world of growing up with kind of without a father vibe, but then also the stigma of your father is this. And I think more of Walt Jr., he has that, but growing up with the trial of what's happening, I feel there's a lot more that the baby will have to suffer for than Walt Jr., because he's already kind of had that suffering, and the family kind of already continues to lose that. But I think it's a hard road for the family.
I think so, for sure. A lot of trauma, for sure. And your character would have had time to adapt. I mean, Walt Jr. was at an age where, you can accept those things at that age. Jr. may not have liked it, but you can accept it. But for a young baby, young child growing up all through it, and then in the school being teased and bullied, later on, very tough, very tough. A question from Leah Turgman. A question for RJ. Are you married? Are you in touch with someone from the series? Are you married? Are you dating? Or?
I am married to the series. No, I am seeing someone, but not married. I got enough problems in a marriage problem.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that for sure. This is a question from Eamon, from his better half, Louise. What was your reaction when you read the script that Hank was going to be killed? That's tough.
Oh, I think it was sad. To a degree, it was understandable. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it was either going to have to be one of the two. And that's kind of, Dean Norris, Hank Schrader kind of made that line in the sand for him. Mm-hmm. When it came to just the standoffishness of that nature. And we were really sad to see him die, but at the same time, what a great death.
I know, right?
What a great death. I that's one of my favorite things in movies and television, and I've been killed in shows a couple of times. But man, a great death is just a work of art.
It is. And, didn't beg for his life. And you look at someone, I mean, Hank was as tough as they come. And then you look at Jack, from the Nazi gang, when Walt basically shot him, basically he's like, you don't pull that trigger, like after he had the machine gun go off. And he's like, don't shoot me. You're not going to know where your money is. And he was basically begging for his life. And he was the toughest guy. Yeah. So he thought. So it goes to show you he was a coward as a tough guy. And Hank was a brave to the very last second. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'll just say great character to play that role.
Yeah. But I find a lot of the bad guys, when it comes to it, to put on these outside personas, to have these types of hard hitting things, a lot of them are pretty soft and sensitive, and it's not always a bad thing, But when you live in a world like those guys do, they can't afford to let that go. So in those moments of losing their lives and losing their death, they're like, no, wait, I still have something to live for. And for Hank, I felt it was one of those situations where it's like, I see you, and you're not taking that from me. I did my job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Like, I caught you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you grab the tiger by the tail.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. How about on the flip side of that? How about another death that was pretty shocking that we all kind of processed in our own way? I'm watching Better Call Saul now for the first time with my girlfriend Nicole. She has never seen it, so we're watching that. She's really taking a liking, like most people do, to Mike Ehrmantraut. I love Mike.
Yeah.
And Mike's
Jonathan
death.
Banks.
Yeah, right. But his death,
Man.
how about that? I mean, that was with Walt taking him out, and then he's like later on, he goes, "Oh, I guess I could have got the numbers from Lydia," and so he really took Mike out, unneeded, unnecessary. What was your thoughts on that passing?
I think I think that hit me just as hard as Hank when it came to this cinematic scene of this river. Right, that's this riverbank vibe of like, I fought the good fight, and that was kind of that tough as nails. Like, those are the people that I like to look up to. Is like those they're not bad guys. They're not tremendously hard people, but at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, they'll get the job done, and that's kind of the Mike. Of that is, he got the job done and he did it, and he sat there and was like kind of this sitting by the riverbank of waiting to see his enemies float down, and eventually he was one of them.
Yeah.
And so I think to a degree he had that peace there. He had that like, you did it. Out of all the people, you did it. And I like that. I like that mentality. And I like that scenic shot.
Oh,
the cinematic value is amazing.
Yeah, and everything inside the Gilliverse, every shot is a postcard. I mean, you could pause and take a shot and send it to your buddy and say, "Wish you were here." You know, it's just absolutely brilliant. Great team. And here's a question from, where was this one at? This is from Karina. She says, "Do you think Walt Jr. and Holly are the only characters that didn't really break bad in some way?"
I mean, I don't think Holly got the choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really break bad at 1 year old or infant, Steve. And you know what? Walt Jr. did try to steal some beer.
Yeah. That's
or
breaking
get some
bad.
beer. I think there was a point to that, though, of the duality of these two characters, and really more of Walt Jr. than Holly. Because Holly didn't really have a choice to make. She kind of was there, and as any baby is, they don't really understand good and evil. That's not really a thing for infants to get, and they shouldn't understand good and evil.
No.
They should only get the good part of it. But Walt Jr. had the ability to distinguish good and evil, and I think when it came to his idols, which were his father and his uncle, I think he had that choice of the duality, and this good being his uncle and his evil being his father, and he picked and he chose his uncle. He made that clear. Now, would he probably regret it? I don't know. I probably would, to a degree. Because maybe if he was there, he could have done something. But then at the same time, there's only so much you can do before it's not in your control. So I mean, I think again, what I loved about Breaking Bad is it's all about circumstance.
Agreed.
100%.
100%. Here's a good question from Bob Rich. He says, another question for RJ. What are your favorite episodes or scenes from Breaking Bad that you got to perform in, and what made them so rewarding? Would it been the scene where maybe Walt Jr.'s coming in, the struggle with the knife, we're a family scene, or maybe I'm out to lunch? What were some of your favorite scenes that you got to perform in?
I love the pilot. Every scene. Pilot was my favorite episode, favorite scenes. really something that I enjoyed, and I always carry with me are those early days of Breaking Bad in the season 1 of that. And I enjoyed the standoff scene with me, Skylar, and my dad. I enjoyed the scene where Walt Jr. finds Walt beat up and broken, and I think those were great moments and great periods in this.
Yeah. It's so funny too. You look back, and some people, Anna got a real rough shake with some fans. People were saying, they didn't like Anna, they didn't like Skylar, I should say, but they took it personally on her.
Yeah.
And I think really, if you're to compare who's the lesser of the two evils, definitely is Walt himself. I mean, the first time I watched that show, and like a lot of people, I loved Walt. And then as I watched it again, and as I got deeper into it, it's like, how can I love this guy, right? And you love to hate him, and it went so dark so quick. But I agree with you 100% on the pilot, for the sole reason that people even like Michael Slovis, he's been on the show, and when they reached out to
Michael's great.
I know, right? When they reached out to him, like he said, "No, I don't want to go do a show out in the desert. It's not for me." And then they sent him, they overnighted him like the first season. He saw the pilot and is like, "Okay, when do you want me there?"
Yeah, Michael was an amazing DP and really created just a vibe. And I was a fan of his work from Law and Order, and that was a big part of his life. And we had probably one of the most well-rounded cast, crew, productions, networks ever. I personally believe in the industry. And the show couldn't be what it is without each and every one of them.
I agree. And I mean, there's some good, you mentioned Ozark earlier. Ozark, that's a good show. It's a really, really good show. Yeah. There's a lot of good shows on TV. And I know that you'll be biased because you were in this show, but it's hard. It's really hard to beat this, anything that Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould and the team touch. It's really hard to beat that.
I really haven't seen a season, and this isn't just Breaking Bad. This is all of Peter Gould and Vince's work. I haven't, and even Michael Slovis and other
Marshall Adams,
in production. I have never seen anything that they've done that I didn't like, even love.
Yeah,
like when you talk about, like, people don't realize, like, X-Files and Hancock and all that stuff. Like, I didn't know that until after the fact. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff is like, this is our people.
I know, right?
You know what I mean? And then same with Better Call Saul. I'm very proud and prideful of Better Call Saul because I'm like, these are our people. We're part of that. Yeah.
Exactly. I think I remember you attending the El Camino premiere. You were there on the
yes.
For that. How did you like how that story tied up the bow of Jesse Pinkman and maybe a life after, like, even though your characters aren't mentioned, but you're there in mindset. How do you think they wrapped that up?
I liked it. I liked it. Sorry, I didn't like as much as I thought it could have been a little better in some spots.
Okay.
Because a movie is hard to cram that much information in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a hard thing to do. I would like to see it as like a mini series.
That would have been cool.
So it would have gotten more play and you could have extended some stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was over.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't feel that, but as a whole, I really enjoyed it. And seeing it on seeing the big screen and with everyone, you can't beat that.
No, I know everyone there. And a reunion for a lot of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. In one way it was nice to see Jesse get his redemption and get away from, the mental and physical abuse he was having. And then we're seeing that with Better Call Saul, and I'm assuming you're looking forward to seeing what happens to Gene, like in the, we're seeing Gene in the black and white kind of one-dimensional, soulless world of, he can't have his animated, colorful life anymore. I'm looking forward to see what happens to him.
Yeah, I think when it has the ability to, like, kind of open that door of kind of, I think this is a great reflection on human psyche. We retreat and we compile and we get dull and dark, and that goes into this mentality of this hate and this deepness. And then eventually what happens is you either overcome it or you blow up from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very interested to see how this is going to come to a head.
For sure. Do you think, I mean, Vince has said that, you know, there's not going to be anything, like he's toyed with the idea that he's pretty much said there's not going to be more spin-offs and things like that. And that could just be to throw us a curve. But do you see any character arc from Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, or anywhere in that neighborhood of a spin-off show that could be successful? Any character arcs? Do you think there could be?
Yeah, mine.
That's
Mine and Anna's. What are you saying? Come on now.
All right. That was a good setup for you.
Yeah, that was perfect. No, I definitely could see. It's not over until it's over.
Yeah.
And it could be tomorrow or it could be 50 years from tomorrow. But I mean, again, it's not over till it's over. And I think there's a lot of potential that I could do. I think they probably want some rest, because really what happened is they just rolled Breaking Bad right into Better Call Saul and right into El Camino.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. We're working on shows of that magnitude. And there's a lot of politics, a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Yep.
And I think they could all use a hiatus.
No time to put your feet up on the coffee table for 5 minutes, right? Yeah.
Nope. And they deserve it. So,
well, Vince is going to be here in 3 weeks. So, and I had, just like you and I did our test call before the show, I'll have his ear for 15 minutes. You want me to try to put in a good word for you?
Put in a good word, my friend. Okay. We'll see what happens. But you would say, hey, where's RJ Mitte and Anna Gunn at these days?
We'll see what happens. You know, I was looking at your IMDb page, and, you know, for people that just know you from a few different things, you know, that's wonderful. And it doesn't matter where people come from that they find you. If they find you from Breaking Bad, awesome. If they find you from this, that's awesome. You know, but to look at your IMDb page and your list is like this. Was Breaking Bad, like, I know you started as a young actor as well too, but did Breaking Bad open a lot of doors for you as an actor?
Yeah. I mean, it opened, I don't like to say it opened every door for me. But it made them a lot easier to open. You know, it gave me a platform. It gave me a tool to utilize in all my works. And you know, more so not. Ironically, it actually hindered me in television and film, because people have a hard time kind of telling me from Walter White Jr. They love that, and that's a very Breaking Bad was an iconic show and altered cinematic television. So that was kind of hard to kind of
get away from,
separate that. But what it did do is it did open me up for more philanthropic endeavors, more advocacy roles, and gave me those tools to work with amazing organizations and insight in those organizations of how we can help people, how can we make a difference, and how can we use platforms like Breaking Bad that I was on to be able to bring awareness, to bring opportunity to others, to use it as an example. And for me, that's better than any type of other TV show that I could do, is that I have the ability to raise awareness, utilizing the power of Breaking Bad, utilizing this entity that is so much bigger than all of us, to try and help people and make a difference.
See, that is very admirable. And one of the comments I had wrote down earlier at the top of my list of things I wanted to talk to you about was, number one, how humble you are. And, you know, I think that comes
on the day.
Yeah, I know. I get you. You know, someone might be telling you some great things, and all of a sudden your headphones, you have to adjust your headphones to fit a little bit more because your head's getting big. There you go. No, but truly though, very, very humble. And, you know, the advocacy that you do is to be well commended. Are there any things, as we get ready to wrap up the show here, are there any charities or organizations like that you just like to take the opportunity and just give a shout out, or have some of us recognize things that are very dear to your heart?
Yeah, always. You know, I was trying to think of a couple of Canadian projects that I work with, different groups. But you know, I'm a big supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children, which is a global organization. United Cerebral Palsy. I'm an IMPWD committee member, which is a campaign for performers with disabilities. I started an anti-bullying initiative called Cut the Bull for Shriners Hospitals. There's some amazing organizations all around the world. For me, it's important not to really. I don't like to plug anything. I'm not big into plugging, but what I am big into is if there is something that affects you directly, and there's something that you feel passionate about, and that you're like, I know this is going to make a difference, do it. Follow it. You don't always follow my groups or what I believe. If there's something in your local area that you're like, I want to help, but I don't know how, contact them directly. They're more often than not, they're looking for volunteers. I know it's tricky right now with COVID. There's many different initiatives. Like right now I'm working with UV training, and I started an initiative where I live right now called A New Standard of Clean, which is we're trying to get more people to raise our standards of clean and health in our everyday environment. And I do that through a no debt school here in Brownsville, Texas. I'm working with a couple of initiatives on getting more equal opportunity employment. I'm a big believer in that. For me, just really when it comes to anyone that's watching this or going to see this, if you want to work with an organization, a foundation, a nonprofit, a movement, or any type of that, believe in it wholeheartedly and don't be afraid to jump into it.
Fantastic and very, very well said. And that's the thing. That's good too. You don't necessarily always have to plug one particular thing, because you do that, and there's so many other good ones out there that are just as equal. And yeah, there's so many organizations, and that's what I don't think people realize is it's yes, you may hear about the one big one, and they did all these things, but really that one big one kind of piggyback off of the hundreds of thousands of millions of people that have been working on the ground and in the fields, doing this and paving the way for just having opportunity. And you don't have to go to the monster ship to make an impact. You could do it in a rowboat. Very well said. That's going to be our perfect takeaway for the end of the evening here. It doesn't have to be the monster ship. There could be the rowboat. I like that. Very well said. Well, listen, it's the top of the hour here, and it has been an absolute pleasure. People always say these shows go fast, and I told your assistant as well, too. I said, it's going to go by fast. The 60 minutes feels like 20.
Yeah, it always does, and especially with a great host. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you.
To be on.
Thank you. I'm a huge fan, and it's very hard, to do these shows and not fanboy out. I've gotten a little bit better, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a huge fan of your work. You were very dear to my heart and the show. I'm a parent as well too. So and a son that's close to what Walt Jr. was in the show, right? So I have a lot of personal connection as well too. Oh, there is a question I did miss from Ariana 6544. Have you ever watched Malcolm in the Middle?
I have watched Malcolm in the Middle. I really like that show, and I'm sad to see the passing of their grandma.
Yes,
that happened this past week. But a great show, and it was really good to see the transition from Brian going from this character to what he did in Heisenberg, as well as to the others. The diversification is amazing.
He is amazing. He's one for the books for sure. We can all learn from.
For sure.
Well, listen, I'm going to give you an open door policy here to come back anytime you want. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Big fan, as I was starting to say there. So thank you for gracing us with your time tonight.
Anytime, let me know. You know how to get a hold of me, so I'm not hard to find.
Okay, all right. We'll go deeper next time on some other issues as well. So just before we go, obviously, thank you for your time. I want to thank other people that make this show happen as well too. A big thank you to Warren and Rachel over at our bobbleheads.com, Royal Baubles. They're a sponsor of the show. There's going to be some cool things coming. I can't say what they are because confidentiality, but some really cool things coming from the Gilliverse side of bobbleheads, bobbleheads.com. I want to thank our YouTube members members, our Patreon supporters, our YouTube subscribers, our moderator team here. We thank you so very, very much. We've got Karina and Eamon heading up the team, and then we've got Jen and Renata supporting them as well too. We couldn't do it without you. They make this. They are my first line of defense, to make this show good, and it's been going good. Karina's been texting me questions all night long for ones that I missed. You guys have been great. Thank you so very, very much. Also encourage you to check back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We've got Rex Lynn. We've got Kevin from Mesa Verde. He called me the other day. I almost didn't answer the phone call because I usually don't answer unknown calls. And then he actually is talking to me in character. Yeah, Eric, this is Kevin, and I hear you're looking for a loan. And I'm like, yeah, I want to get a new Camaro. So we're talking 10 minutes spitballing back and forth in character. And then I'm like, let's talk business. And then we broke the character, and he's coming on next week. So it's going to be a ball as well too.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Listen, don't go away. I'll say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, have a safe and fantastic weekend. We'll look forward to seeing you here. Check out our new Facebook page. It's like 2021 and we got a Facebook page. Like what the heck is with that? Facebook.com/Inside the Gilliverse, or find us over on Instagram at the same address. And we'll look forward to seeing you right here next time, Inside the Gilliverse. Until then, cheers.
Thanks again for tuning into Inside the Gilliverse with Eric Broadbent. Be sure to check back each week for more great discussions and interviews with cast and crew from Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.